Welcome to Financialize. My name is Iron, and I will be your guide through this series of articles and videos created to expand your mind on the topic of finance and the economy. Throughout our content, we will focus on common misconceptions, distractions, established theories, and, from time to time, the occasional equity analysis. Today, we will focus on the BRICS bloc and the idea that they need or will launch a new currency. Let's kiss this topic and keep it stupid simple. First off, who are the BRICS, and why do they need to settle payments outside of the US dollar or the SWIFT system? It's just a handful of small countries, right, with little population and GDP? Well, BRICS is a group of soon-to-be 11 countries. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and 6 new countries that have been invited to become members: Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, and, anticipated to accept the invitation, Argentina and Saudi Arabia. There have been 15 countries in total that have applied for membership and over 50 countries who are interested in joining. But back to its current state, BRICS accounts for more than 30% of the globe's land mass, over 40% of global oil production, comprises more than 45% of the world's population, and at purchasing power parity accounts for more global GDP than the G7, coming in at over 35% as of 2023. This bloc also has a much higher average growth rate and population growth rate than its G7 counterparts. Wow, that escalated quickly, didn't it? Yeah, maybe those look like some impressive stats on paper, but really, a bunch of countries that don't get along are going to upend the US dollar. I mean, come on. What a joke, right? Wrong. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And by weaponizing the US dollar, enemies have not only been made, but now allies of the dollar have their own interests to protect. I mean, who would want to have a misstep, and next thing they know have their foreign reserves confiscated and then given to their enemy during war times? So, what physical asset doesn't carry this counterparty risk, or rather any counterparty risk? What? No, you can't be talking about that shiny pet rock all of the central banks have been buying record amounts of and repatriating. In fact, we are talking about gold, that forgotten Tier 1 asset that central banks have been buying in record quantities over the last few years. It's no coincidence that much of BRICS and even those outside of BRICS are rethinking their purchases of US-denominated debt, but have also increased their gold holdings simultaneously. Now, who would want gold in exchange for all of those natural resources instead of treasuries from the world's largest debtor nation? Well, it looks like a growing list to me. Sorry to our friends in Canada. 0 metric tons is the amount your central bank holds in reserves. As noted by Luke Groman in many of his recent interviews, the Treasury of the United States is no longer interested in sending thank you notes, or in other words, Treasury IOUs to other nations in exchange for goods and services. How about a digital currency that doesn't carry counterparty risk from state actors or individuals? Yes, that's right, the next best thing might be Bitcoin. While it is the runner-up to gold, which truly has no counterparty risk, we could see Bitcoin as another settlement currency that could be used outside the dollar. In either case, the market capitalization for each must expand greatly to handle the settlement of commodities. Lynn Alden also notes this as one of the possible uses for Bitcoin. It is probably the best argument out there to own the digital asset. Use it as a settlement currency outside of the paper fiat world to settle trades between different nations after local currency is used to purchase the goods or services. Why would any nation within BRICS want to have their currency be the reserve currency when these two options already exist? As it stands, there is no other currency or country that could compete with the depth or liquidity of the US Treasury market. Nor is there another country currently that the world would trust to hold such power. But they don't need to with gold or Bitcoin. They are perfectly good options. One already established, with an extraordinarily long track record which has been used before as a settlement currency, and another with a generalized ledger not allowing one nation to hold their reserves hostage. Heck, what if they mash the two together? A blockchain asset backed by physical gold that can be used as settlement, that can be tracked, that can be assigned, that can be instantly exchanged and decentralized. If we do use either of these assets, or both, their price will drastically increase to account for the total global trade settlement. The world has changed whether we like it or not, and throughout history, we have seen currencies rise and fall. Nearly each time, the reserve currency and its mother country are inherently pushed into a deficit position to keep the reserve currency alive. It's not only a privilege to have the reserve currency, it's also a curse, one that almost always ends in the death of the currency. The death is by default, whether outright or through inflation. It's all the same in the monetary world. One just leads to more can-kicking than the other. A system based solely on debt expansion cannot last forever by design. Rates have already reached the zero bound, and we have stolen as much as we can from our own future. Sound money will rise again as it always does. Hopefully this time we can leave the debt death trap behind. If we understand this, so does BRICS. So why the hell would they want to sacrifice one of their currencies and struggle with the world adopting it? Why would these commodity-rich powers continue to be suppressed by a fiat medium of exchange? They don't and won't. We believe they will use gold as the settlement currency because their actions tell us they will. Russia started divesting their US dollars nearly a decade ago. China is doing the same. Turkey, Brazil, Saudi Arabia, India, and many more have been increasing their gold reserves while opening up their markets to trade outside of the dollar. We also saw that the BIS in 2019 reclassified gold as a Tier 1 asset. A recent test of Project Enbridge showed the world a digital cross-border payment system, successfully completed purchases for gold and oil outside of SWIFT. Coincidence? I think not. The chessboard is being set up. Are you watching? Please join us as we traverse the landscape of financial lies. Our goal is to provoke your thoughts on the world in front of us all. We are not here to convince you that these are lies, but rather to reveal the other side of finance that has been hidden from you. In the end, you will decide if these are financial lies or not. Please support us by following us on X, YouTube, Patreon, TikTok, and Substack.